In our first two videos on the French defense, the traps that we taught were against a classical variation of the French defense. In this video, we're going to look at a trap against the Winawer variation of the French defense. Alright, e4, e6, the French defense. Play d4 whenever you get a chance. Grab some space. d5, knight c3, and now the classical is knight f6. That's not what we're looking at in this video. Instead, we're looking at the Winawer variation. The bishop comes out and pins the knight. Now with your knight pinned, they are threatening to play d takes e4. Your e-pawn's hanging. So we push and gain some space. So now they're going to attack the base of the pawn chain. Pawn to c5. And we put the question to the bishop. Say, are you going to take our knight, or are you going to get out of there? If they capture it, this is a main line that you'll see it's pretty common. We take back and the queen comes out, threatening the pawn, and we protect it and threaten a discovery against the queen. But in this trap, and you'll see this sometimes, I've seen it against players in tournaments even, they play c takes d4. You capture with the queen, now they pick up a tempo on your knight. Aren't they excited? But, as is often the case in a French defense, your queen goes to g4. Now look at this square. Their light squared bishop, and many other openings, is guarding that square. In a French Winawer, and in most French defenses, your queen has access to that g4 square to put pressure on that king side, especially the g7 pawn. So now black says, okay, well the way I see it, I can win a center pawn for my g-pawn, which seems like a good deal. So first they trade off the bishop for the knight, check, and take back, and now their knight takes the poison pawn at e5. And you capture g7, your opponent thinks, no big deal, I just trade queens now, and I have a strong center, white has bad pawn structure, and they come out with the queen, queen to f6. This is where you spring the trap. Bishop to h6. Wow, suddenly it dawns on them that if they capture that with the knight, their queen's hanging. If they capture it with their queen, their rook is hanging. And of course, if they just play queen takes queen, then they lose their rook that way. So in a tournament game that I played, I think this is a pretty common response, my opponent played knight to g4, waiting for me to make the trade. If I trade queens, they take with the g8 knight, and then a fork at g7 with my bishop doesn't really work. They can just play rook to g8. But here's bad news. Check. And the king scoots over a square, and now you might say, oh my goodness, I can win their queen. But don't forget the old chess expression. When you see a good move, look for a better one. So even better than winning the queen, of course, is winning the king. Our queen is going to use this diagonal underneath the pawn chain to finish off the black king. Check, 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 and finally, checkmate. That is the trap against the Winawer French. I'll check you later.